What's up, girl? Welcome back, everybody, to the Faith and Whatever podcast. We are on episode 43.
4, I'm pretty sure.
44.
We'll find out.
What are we?
We're on episode 4. So far ahead, we don't know where we are.
Man, so good to be back. Clearly, you can tell we've been in anticipation of this all week. Hey, thanks for joining us. Be sure to connect with us on all forms of social media. You can basically just type in Faith and Whatever to Google, and we're the first ones to come up everywhere. So this week, we are talking about, in the midst of this Christmas season, a few different ways that we can be giving back. We're titling this video 3 Ways to Give Back this season, largely because we talk about all the time in Scripture, we see the 2 most important commandments that Jesus gives, where he sums up all the laws and the prophets that hang on the words that follow. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. And so we kind of figured, what's a good way that we can, in the spirit of this season, practice loving God and loving our neighbors. So we wanted to come up with some practical ways, not only that you can begin to do now, but hopefully will be things that help you build in the year to come. Because the whole point of the Christmas season is not to just simply do stuff for a little bit, recognize the baby Jesus, the
8-pound baby Jesus.
8-pound, 8-ounce baby Jesus or whatever, and enjoy that. And those things are all good. But if there's no lifestyle change, or if there's no habitual building and kind of growth on top of that, then the question becomes, did you really learn anything in the first place? So 3 concrete things that we can contribute to hopefully help you in your walk as you go through this season, but also beyond into the new year. So James, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. What is your way?
Well, my way is so amazing. It's going to just make the rest of just irrelevant.
No
honestly.
way or Yahweh?
Okay. So I was thinking, an interesting way, a different way to give back that some people may not have considered they could do is through giving microloans. So one such company is
Tiny loans.
It's Kiva. It's spelled Kiva. And the way Kiva works, and I'm sure they're not the only avenue for doing this, but they're the avenue I'm familiar with, is that you go on Kiva's website, you let's say you want to help some people in a tough village in a certain African country. You find a borrower who would serve that village. You give like $25 to the borrower, and then they make a loan in that town to somebody who wants to start a business, or to for somebody who needs to take out a bank loan for practical reasons. And money goes a lot farther there, so your $25 goes a lot farther. It might get lumped if the person needs, let's say, like $100 or $150. It might get lumped with some other micro loans. And the person takes that money, hopefully does well by it, starts their company, makes revenue both for themselves, but just to bolster the economy of their town, which is the real genius here, is that you're giving in a way that it bolsters economy as opposed to just giving charity and it kind of getting, becoming very ineffective for anything. But so the loan gets repaid because it's a bank loan, and then that money comes back to you later. And then the way Kiva sort of promotes this is that they say, okay, so if you gave $25, when you get that $25 back, relend it, and then maybe every month or 2 add another $25. So that money keeps coming back. You keep cycling it back out. You keep adding to it so you can give out more microloans and be a bigger contributor to microloans and to building economy in various places. And I think that's a really interesting way to give. I think some people might feel guilty in the sense like, I want to give something. It's Christmas. But this actually does something far more powerful, which is it bolsters economy, therefore creating a long-term benefit to the community. Yeah,
and I think this is why there's a reason, and you're kind of touching on it peripherally in the idea of like sustenance and really sustaining and growth. And that really is, I think, at the heart of the gospel, really what Jesus talks about, like the idea of how we live when the gospel transforms our lives in this kind of setting. It fills us. We are created, we are transformed, and we are sustained really through the power of the Spirit, through the power of the gospel. And this is like a living out of that in a very specific, very real, and very tangible way that can go just beyond like throwing money into a change jar or whatever.
Yeah, well, the thing about throwing money in a change jar or giving it to some sort of charity is that you never know how much of that money is actually going to what you hope it's going to. Especially like if you do it in a supermarket, right? Supermarkets always collect money for charities. a lot of that money goes to the supermarket itself because they charge the charity for being part of the help.
Mm-hmm.
And then that charity gets that money, and they've got to pay all their overhead because they're a big company. And then usually 10% or much less of your actual charitable donation goes to the thing you were
that you were made to believe
help.
that it was intended to actually go for. Okay,
Right.
good. So so we'll link all of our suggestions below in the description. But what's the website that they can go to?
It's Kiva, so KIVA.org.
Okay, so make sure to go check that out and really start looking into this idea of microloan stuff. It's a really popular thing that's kind of beginning to boom, and it's actually really valuable. I mean, it's a really big thing.
Yeah.
So I'll go next, and then we'll finish with you, Chris. I'm a big fan of getting involved locally with things around my area, by and large, because what it does is it connects me to the greater community at large. And I think this is big, and this is kind of our order today. We're kind of starting wide and kind of coming in small there. And so this is kind of the middle ground of that. And I serve at a shelter, and it's been a lot of fun, not because like, oh, go me, or I'm super religious or a great guy or anything, but because in the summertime I was feeling pretty burnt out, like on ministry and being involved in all these projects and really getting stuff moving. And so I just took a step back and started thinking, like, what is something that I just really enjoy doing that kind of recenters, right, and kind of got me right. And so I just started going to the OC Rescue Mission, and I opened it up to our high schoolers, and it was a lot of fun, and they came with. But then school started, and a lot of them had to go back to school and do sports and whatever. But I kept going there, and it was just this really nice place to be where I was anonymous. Nobody cared, about my title, what I do, blah, blah, blah. It was just I was able to work with men and women who were just wanting to be there to help in the situation. And it's not just I want to warn against the idea of just doing something like this one time and then not coming back, because that's good. That's not necessarily bad, but if you want to be involved in this, like, get involved on a more than once a year basis, right? Try and make a commitment to go once a month or even every other week or whatever it is as your schedule permits. But the idea of making something like this a priority will begin to really change the way that you see and understand the world, because it really properly put stuff in their right frame of context. When you're at a place,
gives perspective. When you
so
work
much
outside
more
of your community bubble.
And the valuable thing that I've been able to learn and kind of be taught is that there are people not only that are like in worse scenarios than I am physically, but a lot of these people are in so much better spirits than I am all the time, emotionally or mentally. And in this looking at there's a lot of talent at where I go at the OC Rescue Mission, and a lot of these men and women to just be able to look at the bright side of life. Yeah. And I've learned so much about that, about like not complaining.
Right.
There.
I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for my own situation, which is the bubble I live in, which I try to get out of, but that doesn't mean I don't have a bubble. I have a bubble.
Sure.
The bubble I live in is always trying to convince me that people are just trying to mooch off the government, that people are lazy, that they're not really trying, that they just want to be given handouts.
Yeah.
And there's always this temptation to accept and believe that idea. And when you go and you engage these communities directly and you help, you find out that it's not the case.
Right.
That those assumptions break down. That if those things are true, it's true about a very fringe part of that community, that the main part of the community, the vast amount of people there are trying really hard. They have certain life situations that I've never had to deal with, that they're good-mannered, good-spirited, loving people, loving their own family, loving the people around them, and just trying to make their best in a life that's not been very kind to them.
Yeah. Or just like the randomness, how quickly something onset. So like a tragedy in the family, someone died, and then all of a sudden got behind on bills, payments, house was repoed, and then boom, right? They're living in their car. And so that I think you hit on a really, really big point in that people are so much more than just caricatures and stereotypes there, and homeless people specifically in our at least in the greater LA, Orange County area, kind of get a bad rap. If they're in a more affluent city, they kind of get, pushed out to the city limits or into kind of crappier cities, or what would be kind of understood as that. So that's been a big thing for me. And my challenge to you, if you're watching this video, especially if you're in the Southern California area, consider going to LA Rescue Mission, like the Union Rescue Mission, the Long Beach Rescue Mission, or the Orange County Rescue Mission. There's plenty of places to help and to pitch in. A simple Google search rescue mission near me, or Salvation Army near me, or soup kitchen near me, whatever. We'll reveal these things to you. But start going in January, right? A lot of us make the New Year's resolution to go to the gym starting January 1. And then actually the first Tuesday in February is where the greatest fall off of gym memberships coincides with the greatest ordering of burgers at fast food restaurants in America. It's called Fat Tuesday, literally. And it's a real thing. Yeah.
There is a Fat Tuesday.
Yeah, it's the joke. It's kind of like a play on that. Okay. And so the idea, try and make, going to and helping out once a month at a volunteer, at a rescue mission or something like that. Starting in January, because that's where they need the most help. So we've got big on the international microloan level. We've got medium on the your community at large level. So Chris, what do you have for us today?
Loving your neighbor.
Okay.
That simple.
Go on.
Love your neighbor.
Go on.
You sounded like, who's that character in the Star Wars prequel trilogy?
I'm not saying it's always easy.
Who owned Anakin?
Oh,
You sounded like that guy for a while.
So, I'm a big fan.
Annie, love your neighbor.
So, as Josh will attest to, at the last place I lived, over here in Cyprus, I was on a first-name basis with almost every person on my street. I would walk around and talk to people.
But you wouldn't give them your last name, so I'm kidding.
This is probably a very American-specific one, and maybe not necessarily small-town America, but definitely here in the larger cities.
America.
We don't really get to know our neighbors.
True.
Like, we live right next door to someone, and in some cases, almost on top of each other, and we don't bother to get to know those people who are right there every day. And there's so many simple things you can do for people that close to you. You don't have to go out somewhere. You don't have to send money overseas. There are people right next to you that might need help with something. And maybe it's something simple. Maybe, one time I helped a neighbor move a mattress in from his car. But these are little things that build relationships.
One of the greatest things God gave us was community.
Yeah.
And we're so busy trying to create synthetic communities through like some kind of club or organizations or even churches that are far away from us that we just neglect the fact that we exist inside a community right where we live.
Just inherently like plop community.
Yeah, like we could be just a help to our literal
I'm going to drive
neighbors.
20 miles a different place.
That's always the big question, right? In Sunday school, who's this man's neighbor? It's like, well, here's your actual neighbor, and he might need help with something.
Yeah.
But you don't know because you've never bothered to learn his name.
So what has been a big personal reward that you've been able to kind of see develop out of those relationships?
I wouldn't want to go into too much specifics on that, because it's other people's stories.
Sure.
I don't feel comfortable telling those. But there have been times when I've had the chance to really be there for people through hard times and develop really strong, lasting friendships.
Did you win their souls?
Yeah. Just because of taking the time to get to know the people who lived by you and talking to them. And you start with easy things, common things, right? If you see your neighbor out mowing the lawn, you can talk for a minute about lawns or whatever.
Stupid kids, huh? Mow the lawn.
Hey,
I hate my kids too.
just make some Christmas cookies and take it next door and say, hey, we just want to give these to you.
It's simple. I mean, a lot of times I think, especially when we're young, we start looking at the problems of the world and feeling a little overwhelmed that we can't solve these huge problems. Yeah, what can I do to solve global hunger or these kinds of things?
Microloans.
Yeah. But there's work to do right next door.
Like 20 feet away.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are big. These are a big three, and they're not completely original, right? You're not hearing.
Mine is
Kiva, maybe. Right, but if you consider,
but mine's from Jesus.
And take that, Kiva. Where's your God now, Kiva? These are, I think, useful things mainly because they help us remember in a time of hustle and bustle that we probably forget. It's pretty close to Christmas now as you're watching this video, and I think it gets a little bit difficult to try and remember this in the midst of trying to plan either for the dinners or the holiday parties or whatever you've got kind of coming up. So hopefully you found these three things encouraging, and if you did, do us a favor and drop a like on this video, share it, send it to somebody, maybe post it to your own Facebook page. Be sure to sub there.
Get us nominated for something. You can do that too.
Don't do that. Follow us faithandwhatever.com. We are on Instagram at faithandwhatever. I'm on Twitter at Josh_Carmen. Jamothy is at JamesYuile. Chris is at Marion Ranch, and Garrett is at TStudentLife. So thanks so much for joining us.
Say hi to Garrett for us.